Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live, talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynn@pghcitypaper.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Yep. How you doing? Welcome to Monday, the 17th, the 18th of September. And happy to be with you here this week. I got me a new microphone. And I got me some new equipment over here. And I'm looking at a little box right over there that's going to let us take phone calls in the next day or two. So we are good to go, guys. Almost. Stuff just arrived today. So we're excited. It's like Christmas here. Alrighty. Let's see. I am unable to talk with any authority about the Emmy Awards last night, if anybody wants to talk about that, because I did not watch. And I was not watching the Packer game, which was on opposite. I think they lost, didn't they? The Packers lose? Yep. They lost. Oh, shit. Not that I care. I have not watched a football game yet this year. And it's weird because it's not like something I say, I am not watching a football game. I've lost interest. And I'm not alone. Did you see all the empty seats at a lot of stadiums all over the country? People aren't even showing up. Interesting. People are turned off for various reasons. I'm turned off because I can't watch anymore knowing what's happening to those beautiful young men's heads, let alone their bodies. It just, but I love the game. The game, I mean, is in my blood, so it's really tough. I'm not saying I won't ever watch again, but I feel guilty when I do. And it's taken the joy out of it for me. And when I do allow myself to feel thrilled by some incredible play, I feel, a measure of guilt, like I'm wearing a toga sitting in, the Coliseum, watching people die in front of me for my entertainment, because that's exactly what it is. So I didn't mean to go into that because I don't want to guilt trip anybody who's still loving it. But I think it's in trouble. So, didn't watch football, didn't watch the Emmys. You know what I did watch? And I don't expect any of you to get into it. This is what happens when you live with a young person, or actually I don't live with him anymore, but when he has access to your television and he says, watch this, and you say, oh, come on. But it's a brilliant show. But probably you won't like it. Rick and Morty.
I haven't seen it.
I don't know what to say. That's what I watched last night when the Emmys were on. Rick and Morty, and I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was brilliant social commentary. It's a cartoon. I guess it's on I don't know what it's on. Cartoon Network or Comedy Central, or no, probably Cartoon Network. Cartoon Network, yeah. Just saying. And I think it takes some getting used to. It's odd out there, and you see, I did see that one, Black Mirror, which I also told you to watch, won an Emmy last night. Okay, so all I want to talk about the Emmys, two things, which I'm aware of because, I'm on Twitter, and the Twitter sphere went ballistic about Sean Spicer showing up at the Emmys. Part of a bit that the host, Stephen Colbert, was, I guess, riffing on, crowd size. Wow, what a crowd we have tonight. And, obviously poking at Trump. And then he brings Spicer in with his little, looking like Melissa McCarthy. Art imitating life, imitating art, imitating life, imitating art. You can't even tell anymore. And he said it was the biggest crowd ever. You know, he essentially said exactly, I guess he exactly said what he said about Trump's inaugural. And everybody laughed, or some laughed, and then he left. And I got to tell you, I agree with the people who are upset about it. This is a man who, up until very recently, held a position that up until he held it, was thought to be a position in which the president's surrogate, took questions from the reporters representing we the people. Okay, so you got Sean Spicer representing the president and reporters representing us. And this is where the government and the people, the reporters, by asking questions, are trying to hold the government accountable. And we all know that Sean Spicer, with astonishing regularity, lied. He just lied to us, lied like his boss lies. He had his job, I guess, was to repeat the lies of the president. Thus, he took what was, if not a trusted position, because I think no matter what the administration, you're sort of thinking that they're spinning, the press secretaries. But this was beyond spin. And he helped denigrate the institution that had come about of the press briefing. He helped essentially destroy. I don't think there's anything funny about him. And if Melissa McCarthy and Saturday Night Live had not brilliantly taken him down for our entertainment, he would never have been on the Emmys. So by virtue of picking his despicable behavior, his behavior that shows not a scintilla of integrity, and then roasting it, having fun with it on an entertainment program, he ends up being resurrected as a funny guy. In our heads, he and Melissa McCarthy, have blurred so that we have goodwill toward her, Sean Spicer. It's funny. And that now goes over to him, the real Sean Spicer. So now he's just looked at as a genial clown, willing to laugh at himself. This is what they call normalization. This is what they call short memory. This is what they call, if this is how we, the people, are going to hold members of this administration accountable, then shame on us. It shows what an unserious people we are. Oh, how quick to forgive. I really think I haven't had a chance to think about it too much, but I really think that in most people's heads, the line between Melissa McCarthy's Sean Spicer imitation and Sean Spicer has blurred to the point where they're one and the same. And correct me if I'm wrong, because I happened to hear something on the radio where they were playing the clip from the Emmys. And I think Colbert, as Spicer exited, said, "Thank you, Melissa." There again. Now, you could say, "Oh, come on, you're making too much of a thing." No, I'm not. Nah, I don't think so. So Sean Spicer now is okay. He has a position at Harvard. He's one of the visiting professor types in that program that that threw Chelsea Manning out. So, yeah, he lied through his teeth to us. He leaves the White House, and he's a beloved figure, seems like. Beloved and respected, teaching at Harvard. Little starring bit at the Emmy Awards. Something's wrong. And it's the same thing that has been wrong for decades now. This blurring of lines that used to be very clear between news and entertainment. Used to be clear. You didn't mistake a news show for entertainment. Well, now you easily can, because that's how the people who produce those news shows think about it. It's troubling to me. Do you know I don't even know the phone number here? I was going to give the phone number, and then I realized I used to have a cheat sheet back in one of the other places I was. And, I mean, the fact that anybody... Oh, why would I give the phone number?
Right.
You're looking. That's why you're looking at me like this. I mean, I meant the email, because we don't have the phone number. So we'll have a different phone, do you think, than whatever we had before?
Well,
when we have the phone?
We'll have the same system.
Yeah, but I mean, will they call the same number they used to call? Probably.
Toward the end. Yeah,
Toward the end. Jesus.
Down
God.
at, when you were at Point Park.
Yeah.
That same number. Yeah,
The same number as Point Park had.
Yes.
Okay.
yeah, because it's all into the computer.
All right. I'm sorry. I was just going to give you my email so that if you want to, because we're now still stuck with that. Lynn at pghcitypaper.com. Also, in regard to the Emmys, they did one of those in memoriam things where they put up shots of somebody sings some sad song, and they stick up shots of all the people from the world of television who have died in the last year. And my understanding is Roger Ailes was put up. I mean, I don't know. Now, the reality is he changed a lot. All for the worst. He changed a lot about how television news worked. In fact, before I was saying the lines between news and entertainment have blurred. Well, the architect, the evil genius behind that, largely Roger Ailes. So whoever gets in, a lot of people in the business died probably. They don't all get in. He gets in. And I can see somebody making the argument that he was this pivotal figure in television news. Yeah. He also left his position in television news because he was sexually assaulting and harassing women in his employ. Now, does that keep someone out of the... I don't know, but all I'm saying is when he popped up, I bet a lot of people wanted to puke. I mean, Roger Ailes and then Mary Tyler Moore. It's too bad. Just my reactions. I don't know. I hate award shows in general. I mean, I hate the whole idea of ranking. I mean, when you have a bunch of really good stuff being made and all those there's so many great actors, really, and screenwriters and directors and all that. They're really amazing. To make them compete against each other, which is not what they're doing when they do what they do, it's always struck me as I don't like it. I don't like it. It's a male thing. It's a male thing, ranking. I never hear women say, who do you think is the best? Fill in the blank. What's your favorite? Fill in the blank. Women don't think like that. That's a man thing. What's your favorite? Who's the biggest? Who's the best? What's the worst? Ranking. Women tend to be more, here's a group. It's true. It's been proven. And I'm telling you, I've been alive now for a long, long time, and I've been asked the question of, what's your favorite? A million times, and never has that come out of a woman's mouth. The top 10 this, the top 10 that, the end of the year lists, I'm on, I'd like scream. It's a guy thing. Trust me. So Chuck writes, the Emmys are traditionally the most boring of all the award shows. Thank goodness Colbert was there to spicer things up. The best jab at Trump was when John Lithgow, during his acceptance speech for Best Supporting Actor as Winston Churchill in The Crown, said this. First and foremost, I want to thank Winston Churchill. In these crazy times, his life reminds us what courage and leadership in government looks like. That's good. That was nice. Yeah. So over the weekend, the president was really tweeting. Oh, my God. And the one that blew me away more than any other is calling the head of North Korea Rocket Man. Now, I got to tell you, of all the little, monikers he puts on people, that ain't bad. I mean, I would chuckle under some circumstances, but not. Here's why I can't laugh. North Korea has nuclear weapons. North Korea has missiles that go a lot farther and are not blowing up on the pad and stuff like that. It is so close to being able to stick a nuclear weapon on the top of one of those rockets. And it is run by, I'm not going to say he's crazy. He's had a crazy life. He's living in a crazy environment. He is drunk with power. He was schooled by a father and grandfather who were horrific. You got a scary guy there who, from his perspective, sees his country at risk. And the people most troublesome to him and his country's future is the United States, if you ask him. So you got this unstable megalomaniac narcissist with nuclear weapons in North Korea, and you've got an absolute counterpart in the United States. These two man boys sitting atop the potential annihilation of tens of millions of human beings. These two man boys going back and forth and back and forth. I got to tell you, if you know your history, believe it or not, this kind of loose talk, this kind of, oh yeah, well your mom wears army boots, this kind of stuff can lead to war. It has in the past. You think, oh, you're kidding. I mean, there's a war now? We thought this was just bluster. So the fact that the President of the United States, in this very consequential time, on this very consequential issue and problem, would use a schoolboy taunt, bully boy, schoolyard kind of taunt on Twitter to get the goat of the other guy. This is diplomacy. This is statecraft. Everybody's saying, no, that was a whistle to his base, because they love that kind of stuff. Oh, great. Oh, and in case you're keeping score, and if you're sort of paying any attention, there's a hurricane making its way toward those poor islands that are still devastated from the last hurricane. And it's gaining strength. It's now, Marie is at hurricane level, if you're paying attention. Also, the President of the United States will make his first speech, God help us, at the United Nations tomorrow. I'm sure he'll be on prompter for this. I'm sure he'll be on prompter. But this is when you just want to crawl in a hole. I'm sorry, crawl in a hole. This is our representative to the world, the face of America. Hard to believe. Okay, that's just stuff that I'm mopping up. Oh, and one more. There's a play, a musical that is in town that's here through the week into next weekend, and then it's gone. I happen to have the unbelievable pleasure of seeing it this weekend. It's cheap tickets. It's the Pittsburgh Playhouse. That's in Oakland on Craft Avenue, the old Playhouse, affiliated with Point Park. They have a production of the Scottsboro Boys, which I had never seen before. I mean, it's one of those things where you think, they made a musical out of the Scottsboro Boys? They made a musical out of this appalling historical reality of what life was like, and you could say to a certain extent still is, for black men in America and black boys. Scottsboro Boys, some of them were like 14, 15, falsely accused of the rape of 2 prostitutes, white. It's a story that is so shameful. And yet someone made an extraordinarily good musical about it. The same people who did the musical Chicago are the people behind it. And it is something. And this talent on the stage, all these wondrous young black men, many of whom graduated from Point Park, all working as actors and dancers and singers. It's just, I'm telling you, I got the senior citizen ticket, $15. I don't know what you young stuff have to pay, but not much more. Treat yourself. Seriously, treat yourself. Just saying, Scottsboro Boys. Also, I learned some history. I mean, it made me, I actually went home and started looking up the Scottsboro Boys and the trials. They were retried something like 9 times. There was no evidence except one prostitute's statement. There was no evidence, and they were convicted every friggin' time by a jury, an Alabama jury, on no evidence. Ruined lives. And, you know, over the weekend we have the St. Louis again. I mean, that was totally off my radar screen. That particular black man dead at the hands of a white cop. That one I didn't know. It happened in 2011 or something. It was 2011. And it took this long to exonerate the killer because he's wearing a badge and he got white skin. I don't know how you exonerate a guy who said, there's a recording from the cop car of him saying, I'm going to kill this motherfucker. Literally a minute or two before he killed the guy. And the judge said this. The judge let him go, not a jury. A judge let him go. He said, well, you know, in the heat of the moment, people say all kinds of things. And the statement can be ambiguous. I'm going to kill that motherfucker. I don't think there's any ambiguity in that at all. Wow. I can't imagine. I've said this before over the years. If I were a black male, I would be dead by now, for sure. I'd be dead for a number of reasons. I'd sure have spent time in jail for things that I, as a white woman, still do, like smoke pot. Black men go to jail for a long time for doing what I do with regularity, but, you know, I'm sorry, upper middle class white women, no problem. I would be so filled with rage that I think I would be dead just from the rage eating me alive or making me act out in some way that would finish me off as well. How do you live supposedly trying to deal with the level of fear, humiliation, all the kind of crap that comes at black people? And we have a country that still is filled, maybe more than not, more of them than the rest, that doesn't acknowledge it. Somebody said the other day, maybe it's good that Trump, one of the good things that happened with Trump is he did flush these people out. He gave them the wink and the nod. Come on out. It's okay. You don't have to hide anymore. You can say what you want to say, stand for what you want to stand. And so there are a lot more just out and out statements from these people. The firefighter in Ohio the other day who has been suspended, kick the SOB out. He wrote on Facebook or something that he would save a dog from a burning building before he'd save a N-word. That's a firefighter. Louisiana now, we have two black men shot according to the police execution style. A guy, white guy, driving by in his car, random, black man, bang, shoots him, then stops the car and stands over him and shoots again and again and again. Did that twice. I think sometimes racism comes from white fear that these people, those black people, that they have brutalized for hundreds of years are going to want payback. And I think now that a lot of racism is just terror of what these black folk might do. Because I think these racist things, man, if somebody treated me like that, I'd fucking kill him. I wouldn't take it. I'd kill him. I wonder. As I said, if I were a black man, I would, man, my rage would know no bounds. In the Scottsboro Boys, the attorney who finally gets a few of them out was, of course, a New York Jew. Somebody, they got into the media, and some Jew from New York comes down to Scottsboro, Alabama, where he is subjected to so much anti-Semitism, it's mind-boggling. And there's a song in which the prosecutor actually talks about Jew money that he paid one of the and he's doing a dance, and he's got like doing a thing with a hook nose with his, because it's all cast as sort of a minstrel show. It's a mind-blowing. You gotta go. I can't get it out of my head. Son of a bitch. Ansel writes, referring to leadership and courage in government. I believe that was Winston Churchill, right? Do you think Churchill or any past president of these United States would use social media as Trump did this past week? Of course not. But I got to tell you something. Now that he has, every head of state everywhere is going to use social media. He broke a barrier. Now, we can hope they won't use it in the infantile manner in which Trump uses it. But he's broken so many norms, so many barriers down. There won't be putting it back together like it had been. Not. The damage Trump's doing is already huge, and I'm not so sure it's not irrevocable. Ansel says he's not a statesman. Oh, God, that's for sure. He's an immature child, yep. Someone please tell Kim Jong-un this president does not speak for us. And what do you think made him send out the video of him hitting Hillary with a golf ball? He loved it. What do you mean? He saw it. He loved it. He tweeted out the train mowing down a CNN reporter. He tweeted out, anytime he comes on one of these memes that somebody's created, he loves them. And the fact is invariably they're coming from the alt-right. The guy who, I guess, was behind the golf ball hitting Hillary thing is just a rousing anti-Semite. It's called for all Orthodox Jews to be killed. And Trump retweets this guy's thing. Here's another question. Trump only follows 25 people on Twitter. So it could be, I mean, where does he see these things? How does he see these things on Twitter? People have to show him. So it was said that his new chief of staff, the General Kelly, was preventing people from getting in to see him. Because what they would do is say, hey, Donald, have you seen this. So they were always egging him on with this crazy stuff. So he's still having access to. I think there's an overreaction to some of these. I personally don't see that when the train running down a CNN reporter was taken as a threat of violence to reporters. I don't buy that. I don't. And showing him hitting a golf ball that hits Hillary Clinton is not saying hurt Hillary Clinton. It really isn't. Come on. Is it? It just keeps lowering and lowering and lowering our sense of what is acceptable, what is tolerable. We're so mixed up now, we don't have a clue anymore. Chris writes, I know you really didn't watch the Emmys, but I wanted to mention that you should try and watch Big Little Lies. I did. That was on HBO. It's an excellent series. I saw it one stuff, huh? Only 7 episodes, so it's not time. It was really well done. Yeah. I did see it. I wasn't blown away by it, but I did see it. The only other reason I watched last night is because I wanted to see this other thing I didn't watch, the feud, Betty Davis and Joan Crawford, right? Series. Jessica Lange and Susan Sarandon played those two women. They didn't win anything, mainly because they were up against Big Little Lies. All the rest of the show was boring. I was flipping to PBS to watch the Vietnam series by Ken Burns. I can't do it. I can't watch Vietnam. I just can't. I know I'd learn things if I did, but I just can't. Okay. Oh, I have to note the passing of a great actor. God, I loved him. Harry Dean Stanton. Did he make the in memoriam? Or maybe it was too late? Harry Dean Stanton. If you don't know who he is, Google him. The minute you see his face, you know who he is. Extraordinary character actor, just oozed sinisterness most of the time, but had a breakout role where he ended up being the lead in a movie called Paris, Texas. It's a brilliant movie. Check it out. I think that was in the 80s, 84. Paris, Texas. It won the Cannes Film Festival that year. And also he got a starring role in Repo Man, which I did not see.
Fantastic.
And a lot of people got to know him from television, from the series Big Love. If you ever watched that, about Mormon polygamy. And he played the patriarchal, horrible human leader with a gazillion wives. And he was frightening in it. He would populate your nightmares. So, and he also appeared in the new Twin Peaks this year. And he's got a film coming out. He's 91. He was 91. He has a film coming out called Lucky. So, and he sang on screen in Cool Hand Luke. They said he had an incredible singing voice. He sang 3 numbers, including the hymn "Just a Closer Walk with Thee." All right, so next I didn't realize that. So next time I see Cool Hand Luke is one of those movies I watch like every 2 or 3 years. I'll have to see that again. Excuse me. Mary, you're sending me something on YouTube? My show? I don't understand that. I can't do that right now, whatever that is. I want to talk to you about something that's... If I get upset, then I'm going to get you upset. Sorry, that's just the way it works. Do you remember a scandal, I think back in the 70s, that had to do with the huge food conglomerate company Nestle, which I believe is Swiss company? How Nestle was aggressively marketing its baby formula in India. And women who had always breastfed their babies were turning to this so-called wonder thing, they were told. And because formula has to be mixed with water, and a lot of these women, poor women, did not have access to clean water, they were making baby formula that was killing their kids. All because Nestle wanted to, broaden its market there. It was a huge, when the extent of it was known, when you realize that people who were doing something that was perfectly natural, you don't have to buy something to feed your infant, you have something to feed your infant. You have breast milk, and that's the best thing for them. Pulling the babies off the breast onto bottles filled with crap water. But you gotta make a buck. So, I heard it too. There's a story about what's going on in the world. About these food companies, Nestle being one of the main actors again. Well, let me give you I have a quote from the head of Nestle. Mark Schneider, chief executive of Nestle, recently told investors this, quote, "At a time when some of the growth in their market share is more subdued in established economies," read United States, Europe, "at a time when some of the growth is more subdued in established economies, I think that strong emerging market posture is going to be a winning position." Let me put that in English. We're pretty tapped out in the, in the first world. Let's head over to the third world, and we're going to make a lot of money off a whole bunch of poor people who do not have access to our products. We're going to introduce them. And so this article focused mostly on Brazil and what Nestle has done. They have an army, thousands of women who they've given jobs, who go door to door in the poorest parts of Brazil. And they introduce the people in those homes to Nestle products. Food with little or no nutrition, with tons of calories, tons of sugar, and oh man, this stuff tastes good. And so people are getting bigger. In these poor sections in Brazil, in countries in Africa, this is happening all over the world. In third world countries, people are abandoning their usual diets, which, have worked for thousands of years. millions of years. And going to these heavy sugar, salt, wonderful stuff. Listen, they did us. And Nestle, PepsiCo, General Mills, they are aggressively going after these poorer countries because people in the West have woken up to the fact that their processed foods are not good for their health. So to make their stockholders happy, they got to find more people to bamboozle, hoodwink, and, frankly, make less healthy. So here's the result. There's more and more obesity in the third world now. It's driven, I assure you, it's driven by this. They know it's driven by this. In the third world, people have maybe a little more money than they used to. And they can now spend it on processed foods. You don't have to do the hard work of grinding corn with a mortar and pestle. You got something right here in this handy little bag. With the increase in obesity comes a huge spike around the world in heart disease and diabetes and other chronic illnesses associated with obesity. Here is a fact, and this fact is so sad and maddening. Across the world, globally, there are now more people that are obese than there are people who are underweight. Well, I guess then we took care of those starving people. Ain't nobody starving now. They're now obese and dying of diabetes and heart conditions. At the same time, scientists say, the growing availability of high-calorie, nutrient-poor foods, the processed foods, the PepsiCo, Nestle, and General Mills products, is generating actually what is a new kind of malnutrition. You can be malnourished and be fat. That's what these processed foods are doing to people. A growing number of people are both overweight and undernourished. Simply said, the diet that is being peddled to them is killing them. So the prevalence of obesity has done. Listen, I'm talking as an obese person. I believe I check out my BMI now. I think I just made it, or I'm a pound away from. I'm a good American. The prevalence of obesity has doubled in 73 countries since 1980. And the people who do the National Institutes of Health and stuff, who like crunch numbers, they say that they feel the prevalence of obesity in the world in the last 30 years has resulted in ballpark figure 4 million premature deaths. So this story is in the New York Times, and it says the whole story here is much about economics. This is capitalism, right? Multinational companies now are pushing deeper into the developing world. As they do, they not only transform people's diets, they transform the way agriculture is done in those countries. So farmers who used to, for millions of years, grow subsistence crops, food, nutritional food that they would eat because of Nestle and PepsiCo and General Mills. They're abandoning those sustenance crops in favor of the kind of crops these big boys want and will pay them for, which are corn, sugar cane, and soybeans. Those are the building blocks of all processed foods. Carbonated soft drinks. Sales in Latin America have doubled since 2000, overtaking sales in North America. The same trends mirrored all around the world. More McDonald's, more Domino's Pizza popping up in African towns, not even big cities. I mean, everywhere we're exporting essentially death masquerading as food. Highly addictive food. So you get this. Here's the guy who heads Coca-Cola International. Here's another quote. Half the world's population, he's talking to his stockholders, listen to this. Half the world's population has not had a Coke in the last 30 days. I bet they all started sobbing. Half the world's population has not had a Coke in 30 days. Oh, the humanity. He went on. There's 600 million teenagers who have not had a Coke in the last week. So the opportunity for us is great. They're going to make sure those people start drinking Coke. This article goes into how these big companies, through their money, their influence, and their lobbyists, step in when any nation's government tries to slow down what they're doing. They put money in the right people's hands, and efforts to limit, for instance, junk food ads that are aimed right at kids in these countries, they don't pass because Nestle's handing out money to the people in their parliaments. So here's the end result. What we have is a war between two food systems. A traditional diet of real food, once produced by the farmers that are living right around you. That's one side. And the other side is the producers of ultra-processed, industrialized food designed to be addictive because of the sugar content. Designed to be addictive. Designed to be overconsumed. And we do it. We've been trained. So they made us unhealthier, and they're moving on to the poorer people in the world. This is a strategic business model of these food companies to knowingly hurt millions and millions and millions of people so they can get richer. I'm sorry, that's it. That is what it is. It is no different than when we in the United States, in North America, first woke up to the horror of tobacco and cigarettes and how they were killing us. Talk about premature death there. And so North Americans, and then later Europeans, although not as much, started kicking the habit. Well, those tobacco companies, they had to do something. So they set their sights on China, on Asia, on Africa, on South America, and they went after hook, line, and sinker, trying to addict people in those countries so they could continue to rake in the dough. Is this not the definition of evil? I mean, what? This is not evil. It's business, huh? Evil. When I rail about capitalism, it's not that I don't think capitalism can do a good job. It's that it becomes this. It becomes a monster, a money monster, has no ethic, no moral. There's nothing that doesn't figure in. I'm always telling people who are so into thinking capitalism is America. Capitalism is an economic system. It's not a moral system. It's not a political system. It is a system that is ascendant. It is a system that has won, pretty much. And it doesn't care one whit about you. It cares about money. So, I'm sorry. Oh, man. Hey, heads up. You think we beat back the attempts to knock off Obamacare? Heads up. There is a bill in the Senate that will do that, destroy Obamacare. It has a bunch of senators on board. As a matter of fact, they think that they already have as many as 48 senators quite willing to vote for this. They need 2 or 3 more votes. This is the bill that is Leslie Graham? Not Leslie Graham. Why am I blanking on his name? Graham. Lindsey Graham. It's called the Graham-Cassidy bill. All indications are this would destroy Obamacare. That is its intent. And there is a good chance it could make it this time. Do you remember why they were 1 vote shy last time? Do you remember how that happened? That happened because of an unbelievable swell of Americans aware of what they were up to, calling their congresspeople, calling, screaming, yelling at meetings, don't you dare, don't you dare. It worked enough to back those off. But guys, they're back. Well, according to this, it says they only need 1 or 2 more votes. So what did I know? 1 or 2 more votes. And Paul Krugman says, he reminds us that the only reason they didn't prevail on those previous efforts was because of the public outrage and public activism. But you see, they believe they can wear us down and that we're just not going to be at the barricades this time. Not enough of us are, oh, no, that again? I thought we did that. Excuse me. So, and Krugman says the news cycle has moved on. And it's taken our attention with it. So you don't hear anybody talking about this bill. This bill could pass. If it passes the Senate, it's over. It's over, because it will pass the House. The president will sign it, and Obamacare will be gone. There's some kind of procedural thing where this bill has got to be voted on by the end of this month. I don't understand it. They've got what? 2 weeks, a little less than 2 weeks, to railroad this through. People who know Congress say this is a real possibility. And we're asleep. We're asleep. My last words to you are wake up. And wake up all your friends. And start doing what you did before that worked. Call, 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 call. Email, 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 email. Write letters to the editor. Raise the cry and alarm. They just really might pull it off because, as usual, we, mostly Democrats, rested on our laurels, asleep at the switch. Get busy. I'll see you tomorrow.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.